Well, what Michael Phelps does, which is what all the top-level athletes do, and this started back about probably 30, 35 years ago with the Russians when they started what they call periodizing training, which means they go through periods of really high work, and then they plan rest. And one of the big ideas today, and one of the most important things about training today, is how to rest. And what we've done is a tremendous amount of work where we've created all these unique training programs, but we've forgotten that adaptation really occurs during the rest period. So what Phelps will do, as will all of the great athletes, is they will train really hard, and they'll get up to a sort of a peak, and then they'll back off for a while. And then they'll start back up at a new level, higher volume, higher intensity work. The challenge facing Phelps especially, but all of the athletes, is how to be at their top level at the event. So one of the big challenges facing U.S. Athletes is that they have to qualify. And the qualifying was only just a few weeks ago. So they had to peak for the qualification because it's a cutthroat elimination. If you don't get in the top 2 or 3, then you're not in the games. Plus, you have to make the qualifying time for the games. So they have to win that, and then they have to turn around and then regroup and retrain to get ready to be at their best again on the competition day, plus the sort of elimination events that go up to that. But what swimmers have to do is they have to find that perfect feel for the water, and that when they put their hand through the water, that it moves in a pattern that is perfect for the condition. And so that for every movement of their hand, every movement of their foot, that they would move the greatest distance. And that, establishing that is difficult. And that's what, and one reason why, when you look at swimming, you won't see that many really young swimmers who would be at the international elite level, that is the top 8. Who are going to be in the finals of the games. There are some, obviously, and Janet Evans, for instance, who still holds the world's record, I think, from 20 years ago. She was like 16 when she did that, 17. And, you know, there's always exceptions. That's one of the great things about the games, is that these people who come along that are unpredictable, you know. One of the things that we're struggling with in the United States right now is this idea that if you do not start specializing in sport at a really young age, that you'll never make it, and that has created a huge problem in our country, with regard to youth sports. For instance, right now in sports medicine clinics for children, overuse injuries account for 50 to 60% of all visits to these clinics, and that's unheard of. I mean, there was a few years ago we never saw that, you know, and I just wrote a paper on this. That actually was just published here about a month ago or so, about overuse injuries in children, and this is something that I've studied, and it's this idea that if you don't specialize by the time you're 13 or so, then you can't make it. For instance, Bruce Jenner, who was a number of years ago won the decathlon. And he was on Johnny Carson's show, and Johnny Carson asked him, he said, well, Bruce, you must have been doing this since you were like a little kid. And he said, no, he didn't even start track and field until he was in the 12th grade. So yeah, it's possible to wait and do some of these things. Yeah. But one of the things that you see when they interview athletes, they often say, I'm glad it's over, because they've worked so hard to get there, but it's their life quality during that particular time is not so great because they have really just busted themselves.